Good to, I was gonna say good to see you all, but I don't see you. I see your names. And as Heather said, you're welcome to share if you don't mind being on if you want to be forever seen with, on YouTube, our YouTube page, your image might come up. Otherwise, you're welcome to keep it off if you want. But love to hear from you. You could just unmute, just remember to mute yourself again, as Heather already said. Love to hear your voices. I'm told mine puts people to sleep sometimes, so I'm gonna try to avoid that. Try to, you know, uh, be too relaxing because I know it's right after lunch and you might get to sleepies. But hopefully this is will be fun and interesting, and that we'll learn something together. I want to hear from you what's worked for you. This holiday thing, that's what we're talking about today. The holidays, winter, it's a tough time of year for a lot of people. It's supposed to be, the most wonderful time of the year we're seeing, and it can be, but it can also be very tough time of the year. And maybe partly because it's supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year that we set our expectations up. And if you're dealing with something difficult, it can just highlight it, right? Like when you're walking around and seeing all the lights and the cheer and the stuff and you're feeling something different, it can feel very different. And that your relationships are no exception to that. And so we're going to talk about today what are some of the things about the holidays and winter that might pose challenges, and then what can we do about that, right? Hopefully we don't just leave you with all the problems, but we have some solutions too. So let's jump into it together. And I guess the question I want to start with, or actually I'll come to that in a second. I just start with the quote here. Blessed is the season which engages the whole world in a conspiracy of love. I love that. And it is, right? I mean, obviously, when we're talking about the season, the most predominant holiday is Christmas. But we know there are other holidays around this time from other faiths, other than Christianity. But also even people who don't identify as Christian or have a belief in God even jump into this, right? Like it's just become what it means to you, right? For many people, it's a very religious, a time to celebrate the birth of Jesus and go through that very special spiritual celebration. For other people, it's really about believing in, cheer and magic and love and charity and all the things that the season helps us embrace, right? So hopefully everyone feels that they can identify with it. But we know that again, it can be a lot of challenge with it. And I guess I ask you, you're welcome to type this A, B, C, or D or E. What of all of these, what are your biggest stressors? If you had to say the top of your list, type in there real quick, A, B, C, or D. I kind of want to do an informal poll and see who got the fastest. We got C, A, C, C, D, D, couple D's, D, A, C. No one's saying B yet. Oh, someone did say B and D. Um, okay. Feels like it's pretty spread across the board, right? I do see a lot of A's, and that is definitely really relevant to what we're talking about today, but they really actually all are because, all those other things, gift shopping, the to-do list, figuring out how to pay for it, dealing with the winter, those do impact our relationships as well. So, um, someone said mostly feeling isolated due to not being connected to family. That's a big part of it too, right? So family drama or the lack of feeling uh, connected, like maybe the lack of drama can be also a problem, right? So well, I'll come back to this later. I'm gonna put in a plug here in a little bit for some of the ways that we can continue to help you through your challenges. But I'll come back to that. So yeah, big stressors. We're gonna kind of jump through this together. First of all, yep, the relationships, right? Usually the tensions that are already there get amplified, right? Like if you as a couple have kind of tried to get in a rhythm to avoid one another or just kind of get your stuff done, that's a very common kind of way to just kind of get through a relationship that may be struggling. Well, it gets harder to do when you got to plan, holiday gatherings and gifts and all the stuff that comes up. So those tensions can build because you have more interaction. Um, again, that's some more time together. But then, as someone already said, the loneliness can be intensified as well. And that, by the way, does not just mean the loneliness of for those that are not in a relationship, but the loneliness you may feel. What's that old song? Two is the loneliest number or something. Sometimes you can feel extra lonely when you're with somebody you don't feel connected with, right? And so that can also be intensified. Past relationships can be remembered for the positive or for also trauma or just missing someone. High expectations of togetherness. Like, so that was something I alluded to early is the expectations are really high, right? And all that time with the people you hardly know, the in-laws that you try to avoid, the cousin Eddie, right? Who shows up um, to your house uninvited. And you said that scene from Christmas Vacation where he's like, I could not be more surprised if you, and I don't remember what he said after that, but it was like he was expressing how surprised he was. Maybe someone could throw that in the chat if you remember. We should play a game as we go along here. What movie is that from? And finish that line. What is the end of that? He said, Eddie, I couldn't be more surprised if you, and I don't remember what he said after that, but it was something dramatic. Um, Again, some of those things you've ignored all year become harder to ignore. And then also we've talked about the winter blues. You look out today, and I'm here in Salt Lake, Utah. Um, you wherever you are, I don't know if you're looking out your window and seeing what I am, which is gray skies. I can barely see the mountains. And even when it wasn't so like the skies weren't great, I couldn't see them because in Utah we get this inversion that's kind of gross. And that's actually, I hate that more than I like the snow sometimes because it clears out the inversion. The inversion is the worst part of winter for me, if I'm going to complain for a minute, when you can't really see stuff and you see what you're breathing in. Um, I wouldn't be more surprised if you stapled my head to the carpet. Nice job, Heather. I don't know if you had to look that up or if you remember that offhand. Either way, thank you. That is right. How do I forget that part? I think I might use that line in my own life once in a while. Um, Someone mentioned the stress of divorced families, right? Blended and families can be challenging because multiple events, more things to go to, stressful, sometimes not fun, sometimes they can be great. You love it, more parties, right? Um, Move 1,600 miles away. Holidays are great now. Sometimes there's solutions that you have to find that are dramatic. All right. Here's another Christmas classic. And I want you to notice the strain put on this marriage with this moment of Christmas history.
What I think about is like all our journeys we've come so far to get to here.
Yeah, Parker. Yeah. Yeah. Well, what is it? I don't know. What's in it? Hey, bring it in, huh? Okay, boys. Hold on. Move the child. Yeah, bring it right here. Bring it ahead. Straight ahead. That's right. Right. Here, bring it right ahead, fellas. That's it. Harry. A little more. A little more. That's it. Watch the lady.
Sorry.
Thanks a lot, guys. Merry Christmas. Get to the wine and hammer, Ralph. Fragile. It must be Italian.
I think that says fragile, honey.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He did a job on that shit. Okay. Harry. Hey. Oh, there could be anything in there.
Maybe they forgot.
It's in there. It's got to be in there. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy. Would you look at that? Would you look at that? What is it? It's a leg.
But what is it?
Well, it's a leg, you know, like in a statue.
Statue.
Yeah, statue.
Yeah, statue. Ralphie.
My mother was trying to insinuate herself between us and the statue.
Holy smoke, would you? Do you know what this is? This is a lamp.
It was indeed a lamp.
What a great lamp.
Oh,
Here, hold it. Hold it. Here.
The old man's eyes boggled,
Wow.
overcome by art.
I know just the place for it. Right in the middle of our front room window.
ah. Oh.
Oh, it's all right. It's all right. It's all right. The, this goes to the radio. This goes to this one. Well, it's just one too many. See.
A snap of a few sparks, a quick whiff of ozone, and the lamp blazed forth in unparalleled glory.
Oh, look at that! Will you look at magnificent, that glorious? It's indescribably beautiful. It reminds me of the 4th of July. Turn off all the lights. I want to see what it looks like in the street.
Oh, this is Danny. Can we talk this over? Honey. Okay.
Move it a little bit to the right. Yeah, a little that way. Just a little more to the right. Okay, more. That's it. No, stop right there. That's wonderful. Hey, Mark, what is that? Don't bother me now, so we can't see I'm busy. Yeah, but what is that? It's a major award. A major award? Shucks, I wouldn't have known that. Looks like a lamp. Well, it is a lamp, you nincompoop, but it's a major award. I won it. Damn, hell, you say you won it? Yeah. Have mind power, sweet, mind power.
The entire neighborhood was turned on.
Oh, you should see what it looks like from out here.
All right. I see Heather has the leg lamp. Anybody else ever loved it enough they went and got the leg lamp? I had a guy I used to work with. He puts it in his window every year. The same lamp, all lit up and everything. So the whole leg. Great holiday. You got the tattoo on. Oh, someone got the tattoo of the lamp. Well, that's real dedication to the thing. That's awesome. Someone had been to that house where it was filmed. I didn't know that was the director. I'm learning something from you guys. What did you notice about their relationship? I also have the ornaments of the leg. That's awesome. How many of you watch that and go, that might be the most patient woman I've ever known, right? How she just kind of, oh, can we talk about this? Heather said he doesn't listen. Yeah, he clearly was not even picking up on her like very obvious cues that she was not pleased with this, but he was so just into his enthusiasm that she just kind of let it continue, right? And divorce was frowned upon. I should hope they could avoid divorce over this. They could hopefully they could work through it on this issue. But how did they work through this issue? What did she do later? Y'all remember how she handled it? Or how it seems? No one knows the truth, right? It never was said, but she breaks a leg lamp, right? It breaks mysteriously, and she's like, I have no idea. And he said, you're just jealous because I won an award. And then she finally lets her have like her real feelings about like what that thing was the ugliest, most hideous thing ever. And So you see some patterns of their stuff. Again, that's another example of how this would probably never have happened if they didn't have this. Well, I guess in this case, it wasn't directly related to Christmas. It just happened to be around that time of year. So, but those kind of things can come up right during the holidays. So anyway, yeah. So we see how an example of how relationships can be impacted. Um, Finances is certainly one. How many of you are guilty of retail therapy, right? Like your relationship struggles, so you spend and you feel better. I know my wife and I have done that sometimes when things are tense or struggling, like, hey, let's just go buy something or let's go eat more somewhere it's more expensive than we can handle. Retail therapy. And then what happens though, right? Then we have more stress because of the debt and the regret and buyer's remorse and all that stuff that can come. So that actually could make it worse, right? Also, if you're like most couples and families, you find that you're not exactly in alignment with other people about how much to spend at Christmas. This was something that for years in our relationship took some time for us to come together on. I come from a family where Christmas was a big thing. Like even when we were not couldn't afford it, when we were kind of poor, frankly, as a family at a period in my life, my parents would go a little further than they probably should, right? They just love to just give us gifts. So it kind of became part of my language of love a little bit. So I know I've been guilty of, according to my wife, in my mind, I'm like, this is the perfect amount. Like we're doing just exactly what we should. Look at them, they're spending more, right? But in her mind, it was like I was going a little crazy with it. And so we've had to work through that. And certainly it's been kind of a compromise because she's in some ways just said, in my house, I'm actually kind of the Santa. She knows I like to shop and she doesn't necessarily love to shop for some of the stuff. So I do a lot of the Christmas shopping and I enjoy it. It's fun. And I'm that guy. I have a spreadsheet. Anybody who are my spreadsheet people for holiday shopping? Um, got Jessica's a spreadsheet person. I have a spreadsheet goes back to 2010. It's 15 years I've been keeping it. Um, that I just add another page all the time. Notes on the phone. There's an app I've used called Just Gifts that helps me keep track of it. And I'm kind of a nerd about that. It's kind of fun for me. So finances, the tendency to overspend, the pressure, even if you don't want to spend or you feel like you can't, but you're like your kids are going to talk to their friends. And if you didn't get the, you know, back in the day, the Elmo or the iPod or whatever it is now, like I don't know what it is this year. But if you don't get that thing, how's that going to feel for them and for you? So this can just really bring us to cause more stress and strain. Then there are just the physical demands, right? Just the strain of shopping. Although I feel like this has gotten a lot easier. I have not gone. I'm trying to think if I've gone to any. I think I went to one store, and I'm pretty much done shopping. Because thank goodness for Amazon and online shopping. Because I haven't had to go to the store to do most of my shopping. I know a lot of you are in the same boat, so that strain is a little bit less. Although financial strain's there, but certainly pretty easy to do it from your pajamas in your house, right? Um, Lots of places to be, more events, preparing holiday meals can be a big thing. The cold weather that gets dark sooner, most of us, unless you're logging on from Hawaii right now, the rest of us are getting it's dark earlier and it's also dark in the morning when you're trying to get up and go. And so that can, kind of adds to some gloom and doom about the season and the eating. So I saw a study that said that the average American gains 1 point something pounds every year that they never lose during the holidays. So you think 1.5, boy, I've lost a lot more and gained a lot more this year. But no, if you think every person gets 1 ounce, 1 pound heavier every year at Christmas town that they never lose, by the way. So like that's the time of year we're just keep going more and more. So and more illnesses passed around, right? Don't you love it when you show up to a Christmas party with your family, and it's like a week before Christmas, and your little nephew comes and he's adorable, but he's got like snot running down his face and he's coughing all over everybody, and you're like, well, I guess we know what we're gonna have on Christmas, right? So those things come up as well, right? On the other hand, it's like what do you do? Because if you don't come to the party, how do we tell them you can't come? If you can't come when you're sick, nobody comes because everybody gets sick around this time of year. So those things can come along. So what do you do about it, right? Let's get a little bit into what do we do about all of this stuff? Is there anything before I do that I've missed? Any stresses or strains in general, or specifically if you want, that I have kind of not touched on that you feel around this time of year? Oops, didn't mean to go forward like that. Trigger finger here. Did we cover it? Okay, so and the cold. Someone just said cold. Yeah, the temperature, just the temperature, and snow. How do you feel about snow? I know a lot of people are like, put it in the mountains. I don't want it down here where I live, but what is your feeling about that? And certainly the temperature. Hard to go out and exercise, right? If you like to exercise, it's like, it's icy and it can be bad breathing, should we be running in this stuff with all the air, poor quality? I'm going to tell you, I think the secret is on the page in front of you. And that is what all of the Christmas movies, they're all about, not all, they're either about one or two things. Tell me which Christmas movies don't fall into this. They're about believing in Santa or the spirit of the season. Like, is it real? Like, right? There's how many holiday specials are about like the Santa Claus? Like, is Santa real? And the other set is about like getting into finding out what it's really about, right? It always starts with some, in the case of Christmas Vacation, all the chaos of stuff, and then you find out at the end it's really about family, right? He thought it was about the pool for a long time and getting the special pool and the bonus, and then you realize it's really about family. And so these shows are all about that. And maybe the secret to having the holidays and winter work for us is to start early. And I'm probably a little late to that. It's, we're a week away from Christmas, but to decide now what it means to you. And then as you go through all those experiences, you have that filter in place. So when you're late because someone didn't get ready on time, when you find out that the thing you were going to buy is not going to make it before Christmas, that you thought Amazon was going to bring it, when you don't get the Christmas bonus, maybe you don't drag Cousin Eddie over to the house, or not Cousin Eddie. Cousin Eddie doesn't drag the boss over the house. Maybe that before it gets to that point, maybe you say, what's it really about, right? How do I remember it's really about believing in the spirit of what this is about, the spiritual aspect of it. If you're a Christian and it's about the birth of the Savior, then it's really about like that and the spiritual component, or it's about family. It's about charity, about doing for others. Like, decide that for you. Do that personally, and then do it together. And by the way, if you're looking to structure that a little bit, make that a fun activity for you as a couple and as a family. Like, sit down and say, what does this time of year mean to us? And you write it down, and then you see where you have in common and what you don't, and then do it together to come up with a joint story, right? Maybe you take a little bit of yours, a little bit of mine, and come up with something like that together. What will this mean to us? And by the way, what is in our control? If your story, I keep hitting the wrong button here. If your story of what you said the holiday means to you, take a look at it. And if it's a lot of things out of your control, like for example, it means that everyone loves each other and nobody fights, or it means that we'll have snow, a white Christmas, or it means whatever. Look at those things and say, how much am I handing over to fate and God and other people to decide what it means? Why don't I, because why don't I just decide, you know, together with the people I love, like, what does it mean? When I say God, I mean like the weather, right? I mean, obviously, if you have a relationship with God, you can say, well, obviously he doesn't care what everybody's getting for Christmas. He cares about your happiness and your love that you have for one another. So how can you make that what it's about? And then when you have those challenges, you can just see it through that spirit, right? That's the lens you watch the holidays through. And I think maybe some of you think, well, I already try to do that. I mean, make it official, like really make it a mantra. So whenever something happens, you come back to that. Um, and as a couple, go on that walk, the proverbial walk you see in front of you there, and decide who are we and what do we care most about? So that's kind of one of the ways to guide that discussion is what do we care most about during these holidays and during the winter? And then roll with it. Okay. So maybe the narrative you want is the Norman Rockwell painting, right? Of just a white Christmas with peace and love and wonder. But then you're presented with the Christmas Vacation story or the Home Alone story, where you thought you're going on a vacation to France. Next thing you know, you're scrambling because you left your kid behind, right? Or you're one of the Who's who in Whoville, and all your presents are stolen in the middle of the night. And because the Who's in Whoville already had decided what Christmas was, contrary to what it seemed, because it sure seemed like on every version of that show I've seen, it sure seemed like it was all about the presents, right? And that's what drove the Grinch mad until I realized, and maybe they had to like have a moment where they realized, yeah, we did let it be about that. But they didn't take long because in that morning they were all around the tree doing their Yahoo Dore welcome Christmas Day and with hearts aglow or whatever the song says. By the way, if you want to have a fun Christmas, also recreate that moment. We did that with our kids when they were little, and they thought it was fun. We went around our tiny little tree in the front yard and held hands and did the Yahoo Dore thing or whatever it's called, and it was stupid, but we had fun. So you might have wanted the Norman Rockwell painting, but instead you got a comedy like Let It Be Funny, or a drama, or you got a tragedy, right? Roll with that narrative and just let it be, and don't impose your expectations, embrace it. But you can decide how to narrate. Does that make sense? So the story, if the fact, maybe I could put this differently on here. Roll with the events that you're presented with, not the narrative. Roll with the events, but let the narrative be what you decide. You're the storyteller, right? In other words, it could be a drama, or you could let it be a comedy if you tell the story the right way, right? If you let it be when the Christmas turkey ham does not turn out well, maybe you laugh about it instead of like throw, accusations around and get upset about it. Just roll with it, right? That's not easy to do. I recognize that. And it's actually not even a good idea in some ways. Like laughing about some things is probably going to just make it worse. But find a way to tell the story. And that comes from maybe how you decide to do that. It comes back to the old serenity prayer, which you might recognize in that last bullet point, right? God grant me the courage to change the things I can, the serenity to, I'm sorry, I'm going to get this wrong. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, right? So that ability to sort of pay attention and say, I can't do anything about that. So let it ride. Let it be. Like you can't do anything about your in-laws and how they're going to be. So just let them be themselves and just love them as they are and just let it be. Or change things you can. I got a quote here by Jenny. Between stimulus and response, there's a space. And that space is our power to choose our response, and our response lies in our growth and our freedom. Is that from the Man's Search for Meaning? I think that's from Man's Search for Meaning, right? The book. Maybe I have that wrong, but I love that quote. I love that quote. Going into another meeting. Oh, thank you, Bahar. Thanks for being here. Anyway, so that ability to just kind of read the situation and I'd encourage you to make Viktor Frankl. Yep. So he's the one that wrote that book. Ride with what's in front of you, and you'll see how much your peace has increased. And then we can't avoid judging each other and ourselves, but when we do, judge by the intentions, right? The best efforts and the healthy expectations. Don't let keeping up with the Jones determine your happiness. Man, I'm really having a hard time with the pointer today. Some of the, if you've heard of the Gottmans, we could revisit some of the advice they've given, and its research has shown us it'd be a good time of year to do that, right? And what they talk about there is maintaining at least 5-to-1 positive to negative interaction ratio. You could say that's maybe higher than that, right? So what that means sometimes, because you can't always limit and you can't always dictate the negative interactions, you can create more positive ones to try to help offset those, right? Be conscientious and in the way that you care about people. It's really easy this time of year to get really like kind of casual because we just hope that we get caught up in the season and we don't pay attention to our inner wisdom. So just saying what's somewhat conscientious, right? As an example of that, think about your own dietary habits. I have the tendency to be like, I'm not paying attention this time of year as much, right? And why I'm so conscious the rest of the year, why am I just not even paying attention? It tells me that I've gone into some other magical holiday mode where magically pounds don't happen and health problems don't come from me eating pizza at 10 p.m. I'm going to be fine. And then I reminded it like 2 a.m. like, no, you're not fine. That's a bad idea. So how do we stay somewhat conscious and not lose sight of just what we're up to and what we're trying to accomplish? So listen, and then just, stress reducing conversations. Oh, again, I skipped one, the turning towards bids for connection. Those bids may take on a different uh, flavor this time of year. Those bids could be your partner's incessant need to do the elf on the shelf, even though you hate it, right? But it means something to them, and that's them trying to connect with your kids or whatever. Like, let's let it be and jump on board and enjoy some of those things, right? And create some stress reducing conversation where you listen empathically rather than trying to fix everything. I added checking in regularly. And that is, it can be a preventative tool, like, and give way to building on what is working and saying, how are we doing, like with the holidays? How am I doing on the shopping? So that, for example, if I'm the shopper, I like to overspend rather than waiting till like December 26th and getting a big fight over, like, are you kidding me? Where did this money come from? How are we going to do all that? Like checking in regularly, like, how are we feeling about things? Can we buy this? Is this something you feel good about? Or, so checking in more regularly and trying to focus on what can we do to improve and what's going well to build on, more so, which you can't avoid the what is wrong conversations, but trying to make those less than the what can we do to improve conversations. Jenny said, my husband tolerates Christmas music for me. There you go, right? Like he might not love. I don't know what it is about the movies. Most of the movies are great to me. By the way, if you haven't seen it and you like Christmas music, I'm going to give you a recommendation to go watch, and that is, and I'm not paid to do this. And some of you might hate this movie. It's called Spirited, and it's on Apple TV, and I think it's awesome. It's got, of course, a classic for me is Elf with Will Ferrell, but it's got Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds, who I think is awesome, and it's a really good musical. And it's good. We both love it. Our whole family loves it. Heather loves it apparently. But some people are like, oh man, that's like nails on the chalkboard, right? Jenny loves it. But some people see those. For some reason, the movies are like, I love most of the movies. There aren't very many movies that I hate, but there are several songs. And I don't want to cause an argument here. Everybody put in here just for kicks. We're going to go negative here for a minute. The one that you just like have to, either you tolerate or everybody knows you're just not gonna, and they change the channel for you. However that's handled, what is that song that you just drives you bonkers this time of year? And then if you want to be more positive, you can just also throw in there, what's your favorite one too? What's your favorite song? I don't like the Christmas Shoes song. They don't play it very much. It feels like an overt effort to make people cry. I mean, come on. I'm hearing Janine says anything by Mariah Carey. Not a big fan. All I Want for Christmas Is You, thumbs down. Dominic the Donkey. I've not had the pleasure, I don't think, of hearing Dominic the Donkey. It must be kind of a new one, right? Rudolph Least, your favorite is White Christmas. I love Rudolph. To me, it's a classic. Like I love the show. I love the song. I like, by the way, Jack Johnson does a version of that. I think it's more realistic because at the part where he's like, "Won't you guide my sleigh tonight?" he goes, well, I don't know, guys, like you've been pretty rotten to me. I don't know. I'm gonna think about this. In the end, he does, but at least he gives pause and he doesn't act like, oh, sure, no problem. Like you've been total jerk to me, and now you want me to just guide your sleigh, you dork. Why don't you get a flashlight and try it yourself? Um, so the cheesy Christmas music. I know some of you in here, you got your Hallmark shows. Those are the probably ones for me that like I would willingly watch it with my wife. I would be a good husband, but to be honest, she probably doesn't want me to because in her mind she knows I'm going to be I'm thinking about some of them. Like, oh my gosh, that's not realistic at all. And so she's probably prefers to watch it. Not probably. She prefers to watch them alone. Because even though I've learned to zip it, I think she knows what I'm thinking. On some of those. I hope none of you have offended anybody who loves your Hallmark shows. I'm known to you, they're very realistic, and that's exactly how the world should be, right? Although you'd probably also say realistic, like you like Rudolph. It's not realistic either, right? Whatever. Expect chaos and problems, and that is maybe a lot of the secret sauce is just embrace it. The happiest people are those that are surprised when things go rather than when they don't. Now that also, though, as I put in there, that could sound a little bit pessimistic, right? Like expect everything to go poorly. There is a fine line between the pessimism of, the Eeyore, like everything's gonna go poorly. Of course it does. And then you're kind of watching for it, you're looking for it, and you're actually creating it. There's a fine line between that and just this grace that like everything's gonna be okay. I don't need everything to be great. Like if everything's great, that'll just be a nice bonus. All I need is a song from a artist I really like, and the line says, just and kind of in a prayerful sense, I guess you'd call it, because it's just offering up to the cosmos, like this thought, like, give me what I need, I'll go find what I want, kind of line. And I was like, I like that because if we just kind of focus on, we are if you're able to eat during the holidays and you have someone who that you love that you can share that with, you're richer than most people, right? So just accepting the rest is gravy. But I know, having said that, and because I'm a counselor, that some of us aren't rich in that regard. Like you can't afford a Christmas, and your your relationships are in chaos and they're horrific and they're hard. And so I recognize that, and that's when you're in that state and it's unarguable that you don't have those things, you can't just put on a smile, right? You have to recognize and leave space for your grief. um the movie, the It's a Wonderful Life, like you might say, boy, that whole thing could have been avoided if he'd just put on a cheery smile and realized that he's important. Or maybe he needed to go through that exercise, and thank goodness he never chose to actually commit suicide, but he sure was thinking about how the world would be better without him. And maybe by grieving what he felt and then opening himself up to the experience that was fantasy about what it would be like, maybe that journey has to happen for some of us, right? So honoring that sometimes we have to grieve what's not there, and that might be what's realistic. Like you might need to go take a break from that family party and have a little bit of a moment with yourself to just go, man, this is hard for me this year, like I'm struggling, and maybe find that person who'll listen and be real, so you're not just faking it. Rituals are one of the things that can bring couples and families together, and they can also cause so much stress and strain. I know for my wife and I, because my family is such a tight knit, we have so many rituals and things we try to do, and I was dragging her on all of these things, and her family's a lot more laid back than mine about a lot of that stuff, and so that was a little bit of a strain between us, and I think we had to work on finding me letting go. I remember one year I just decided, I told my family, we're not coming around on Christmas Eve and Christmas. We're just going to be just as a little family. And I did that with like I'm going to do this for her because I think she didn't want all the craziness. And, I benefited from that. Like, sure, I missed all the other stuff. And I certainly didn't want to make that a permanent ritual because I want to be with all those other people too. But I felt like that was important for me to just say, can I pause, hit pause on some of those things and be with my little family and not always have to have all that craziness. And I'd love to hear from you. Put in chat, what are some of your rituals? Maybe others will adopt them. We don't do the elf on the shelf. I guess I don't like to be like everyone else. So we do the Alf on the shelf just to be stupid. Some of you were born in the 80s, remember Alf? So we do a little of that, but I don't get crazy. I love the stuff I see that's so creative what people do with that. What are some of your other rituals? What do you do that's very helpful for you? Like, we always go see lights, of course. There's several places we go see the lights and have little family parties and stuff like that. Christmas PJs, right? And even the matching socks. I don't think we'd done that one year. I think we'd like slippers or something, but you're going all in if you're doing the matching socks. Yeah, we do the Christmas Eve PJs is what we do. Every Christmas Eve. Yep. Looks like a couple of you do that. That's a fun one. Big breakfast Christmas morning. Yep. Cookie baking. See, moving to theater. I have a friend that does that too. That could be a fun one, right? Go to a movie because there's usually good movies around this time of year. Read the night before Christmas. We do that. So in our family, we read Luke 2, which is the story of the birth of Jesus. And then we read the night before Christmas and we take turns reading it. It's a different person reads it every year and usually don't take it very seriously and just kind of joke about it. A small family gift a week or two before Christmas. That's fun. That's a way to draw it out, right? Those are great traditions, everybody. Thank you for sharing those. The best Christmas pageant ever, which I think there's a new version of that movie, but the book is great, and those are great traditions. Have you guys heard the story of the Christmas ham? And I think it highlights why sometimes we want to rethink the way we do things. So the story is probably not a true story, but just illustrates the point that a woman was like of age and she's like, I'm ready to bake the ham. Like I'm going to do it this year, right? Like a couple years ago, my wife sat down our two daughters and they're my two oldest children. And it was like, I'm going to teach you how to do the turkey. And so it was fun for me to watch them learn how to do the turkey on Thanksgiving and some of that stuff. Well, in kind of that same spirit, this new kind of adult said, Mom, time for me to learn how to do the famous family ham, the Christmas ham. And so she's like learning how to do it. And Mom says, hey, first you cut off the ends and then you put it in. And she's telling her how to marinate it and all the stuff to do, how to bake it. And the daughter said, Mom, like, why do you cut off the ends? Like, that's meat. And she's like, I think it has something to do with it marinates better. I think the juices get in better. I don't know for sure though, actually. Maybe I'll ask my mom. So she goes to her mom, who's quite old, and says, Mama, can you remind me why we cut off the ends of the ham when we bake it? And she says, oh, well, dear, back in my day, the ovens were really small and the pans were really small. And so you had to cut off the ends to fit it in to the pan. And so then they look at each other like, we're like, okay. And they got to make a decision. Are we just going to keep cutting off the ends of the ham because it's the way you do it? Or do we say, maybe that's a part of the ham that we could keep, right? So that's a decision to keep. Now, maybe in your family, you're like, I don't care. We still cut off the ends. That's our ritual. We have our, and that might be an argument, but it's something you got to work through. For others, it's like, no, like, that's a good part of the ham. Let's not get stuck in a ritual. But the key is if you think about what a purpose of a ritual is, I'm going to ask you, why? Why do we have these traditions and rituals? I'm using the word ritual, make it sound more, I don't know, but traditions. Why do we have these traditions and rituals? What is the purpose? Let me ask you, anybody want to chime in? Makes memories. Yes. That's a huge one, right? Something that you'll have to look back on with hopefully fond, happy memories. Anybody else want to chime in on that? Something to look forward to. So it's about looking back and about looking forward, keeping the magic, sharing the moment, the familiarity. Yeah, isn't it nice, Amy, that some of your years planned for you, like you just know, and so it takes on a lot of we're going to do this year to make it exciting. We already know, right? We love that passing on tradition, that feeling of the connection with your grandparents. Maybe that's why you keep cutting the ends of the ham off because you're like, because that's what grandma did, right? Passing on the tradition. I got a jinx here. So those are all great reasons. But think about it. Those all get ruined if you're so stuck on the ritual or tradition that you enforce it in ways that just are uncomfortable, that cause everybody to be happy. You know, like you're like, no, we got to do this way. And you're like forcing it. And everyone's like, oh, this is no fun, right? So when we keep the purpose in mind, then that's how we make sure it fits the criteria for a good tradition. If it's one that's gotten old and it's just caused a lot of stress, it's like, let's change it. Let's create a new one. Let's have old. So when you're coming together as a couple, for some of you who are new couples, I think a perfect recipe is, like keep keep a block of those traditions, get rid of a block of a few others, and create a few of your own, right? And find that balance, right? And if your traditions, if you are doing all of your family of origin traditions, you probably haven't given way a little bit to your spouse and your partner. Maybe it's time to let a few of those go so you can make room for your used couple. And no one need to hear that more than me. I've had to let go of a few because I need to make room for my new family. And now I'm doing it as a grandpa, right? So I'm a grandpa now. My kids are getting married and having their own kids, and now I gotta let go. It's hard for me. Like I'm that guy who's like uh, Clark Griswold, who's like, no, we're gonna do the lights, and everyone's gonna be happy, and and I'm gonna force a Christmas experience upon everyone. But that can be problematic. So don't overdo it. Real quick, I'm going to go through a few more tips for you, just kind of if we haven't covered them already. Acknowledge your feelings. Like, again, be real at this time of year. It only makes it worse. So, yeah, it might mean a little alone time to do it, or it might mean with people that will, and give people an opportunity. If you tell them that's what you're looking for, don't spring it on them in ways like in the middle of a family gathering, you're like, I want to be sad for a minute, and you just start sharing stuff, and like, oh, like give people opportunity to succeed by letting them know what you need. Don't force it, but accept it when it comes. If you're going through grief, one of the things I have to help people is like you lost a loved one, let that moment like because sometimes there's a guilt around accepting joy when it comes. Like, oh no, I can't do that. Accept it when it comes. Seek support. Don't be a martyr. Support others, and getting support is allow people to take care of you as well. Some of us are got too much pride and don't let other people help us. Be realistic. Set those differences aside. If you've got those family members and even each other, some things you're like, look, maybe this stuff we've been arguing about needs to be just kind of put on hold because we got too much going on right now, right? And then sticking to a budget so you're avoiding that retail therapy effect that could cause more problems later. Let's plan ahead the best you can. Learn how to say no. Again, that comes back to a little bit of discussion we already had, but learn how to say no. Don't abandon healthy habits. Take a breather. And yes, thank you, Heather. If you have questions, give them to me now. Rethink resolutions. I've talked about that. Forget about perfection and seek professional help. That's where we come in. For any of you, what I want to say, I have oh, by the way, speaking of the time of winter, this time of year, I don't know if you've tried it, but for those of you dealing with the winter blues, vitamin D, right? And light therapy can be very helpful. There's even things you can buy. I have a family member that we bought this for because she's dealing with a lot of seasonal depression, lack of that light. So finding ways to offset that can be very helpful. Keep room for your relationship. Make it entertaining. Again, here's just a few ideas, throw it out to you. Cozy move a marathon with hot cocoa, decorate the tree together. Maybe create your own little tree in your own room if you need to make it more of an intimate thing for you as a couple. Create a couple tradition that has nothing to do with everybody else, but just for the two of you. And then surprise with little things like a love note, right? As the questions might come in, I've got a couple minute video clip I'm gonna share with you just to bring it home of how, at least in this moment, you see they just kind of embrace what comes. The narrative changes. Watch how many times the narrative and the story, the facts change, and how they just kind of roll with it.
Before we begin, since this is Aunt Bethany's 80th Christmas, I think she should lead us in the saying of grace.
Oh, great. Oh.
What, dear? Grace. Grace. She passed away 30 years ago.
They want you to say grace. The blessing.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation
Under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Amen.
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 Catherine, this turkey tastes half as good as it looks. I think we're all in for a very big treat.
Save the neck for me, Clark.
Okay, Eddie.
Why are you crying?
I told you we put it in too early.
Oh, it's just a little dry. It's fine. Here's the heart.
There you have it. See how they just rolled. Clark had one of his better moments. He had some others that weren't so great, but he rolled with it. And then those memories, right? Think about your own stories about how the things that didn't go well become some of the funnest memories. And if we have that kind of forward thinking that like someday I'm really gonna laugh about this, might help this moment have less, call that bridging, right? Bring a bridge to the future and let this moment not carry the day and realize that that's in the bigger picture, may not be such a big deal. So again, I would challenge every one of you, if you have any questions, please share them. But I also want to hear from you if you have any parting things that worked for you. Maybe throw them in the chat. Like, what do you do to get through this holiday season in the winter months? And I'm going to put a pitch in for those of you who are in a committed relationship. We are doing a support group that's going to be kind of resuming in January. And the idea of that is that you're there for each other, right? And I'll be there to kind of guide it. And we'll bring a thought and some things to kind of discuss to give you something to think about. But it's also there just to kind of create kind of a support. Sometimes it helps to talk to other couples, other people going through the stuff you're going through and learn from each other. So stay tuned. That's January 6th is our next. Go to our webpage and also go to our app to get more information on that. So please come if that would be of value to you. But I got some people rolling in with a couple of thoughts. Try to focus on the positives and celebrate them no matter how small. And meditate. Yeah, leave time for that personal. Like I know some of us that are like kind of introverts, like, man, this can be overwhelming. Leave some time for just some personal, alone time and meditate and work through it. And by the way, I love it, Janine. That's probably a great way to say, do something good for someone else. Isn't that great? Like when you have the opportunity, Heather, who's helps navigate this for us, give her just shout out because she has for years now helped navigate for us a charity that we all get involved in helping foster kids get Christmas. And every time we have the opportunity to do that, it's like just a great reminder of what matters, right? Is helping other people who are less fortunate than us, and it can feel really good. So again, thank you all. I wish you the best. I wish you the happy holidays, happy Merry Christmas, happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate, however you do it, happy New Year. Please, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. And as I said before, reach out to us if there's anything we can do. Okay. Thank you all. See you later.